Let's talk about something that I think a lot of us feel, but maybe don't have a name for. It's that nagging sense that our worth is basically tied to what we achieve, right? That who we are is just a summary of our latest success or our latest failure. But what if that's just not true? Today, we're going to dig into why your value isn't, and really has never been, based on your performance.
You know this feeling, I'm sure of it. You work for weeks, months, maybe even years chasing something down. You finally get it, you cross that finish line, and the good feeling lasts for, what, a few minutes? Then, instead of that deep fulfillment you were expecting, there's just this quiet emptiness, and that little voice asking, okay, what's next?
It's that little hit you get from a social media post. It feels good for a second, then vanishes, leaving you right back to scrolling, looking for another one.
Or it's landing that huge promotion you've been gunning for, only to find yourself almost immediately worrying about the next promotion. The goalposts they just keep moving, don't they?
And it's definitely that hollow feeling after a massive project wraps up. The thing that gave you all your purpose is suddenly just gone. If any of this is ringing a bell, it's probably because you've been navigating your life with buoys instead of anchors.
Okay, let's really dive into this metaphor, because it's so key to understanding this whole thing. Think of buoys as all your external achievements, your likes, your job titles, the praise you get. They just bob around on the surface, and they get tossed around by every little wave of public opinion, every comment, every win or loss. They're great for marking a spot, sure, but you would never tie your ship to one in a storm. Anchors, though, anchors are different. They're internal. They hold you steady, way down deep, far beneath all that chaos on the surface. They are your core values, your real sense of self, and they couldn't care less about the weather.
So why are we so easily hooked by these buoys? Well, it's not some kind of personal failure. Turns out our brains are wired with this really powerful, really ancient system. Let's just call it the validation engine.
And at the heart of this engine is the dopamine reward system. You've probably heard of it. It's basically a circuit in your brain that gives you a little hit of pleasure when you do something your brain thinks is good for you, for survival or for your social standing. And that pleasure, well, it motivates you to do that thing again and again, creating this powerful loop. Now here's where it gets kind of tricky. Modern life has figured out how to hijack this ancient system. Social media platforms are absolute masters at this. Every single like is a tiny little dopamine hit. Every notification is an immediate reward. We've built this entire world of instant gratification that is constantly feeding this engine, training us 24/7 to hunt for that next hit of external validation. And this is where it gets really serious. Psychologists Ryan and DC have a name for this process: introjection. It's a bit of a technical term, but all it means is that we basically swallow an external idea whole without even chewing. We start to believe that our self-esteem is contingent, that it literally depends on our performance. So that constant chase for dopamine, it literally rewires our brains to think our actual worth as a person is tied to our ability to succeed, and just as importantly, to avoid failure. Okay, so if chasing dopamine hits and external validation is just leaving us feeling empty, what's the alternative? How in the world do we get off this treadmill? Well, the answer lies in shifting our focus away from what the world seems to want from us and toward what we fundamentally need as human beings.
And thankfully, we're not just guessing here. We have a map. It's a hugely influential framework from psychology called self-determination theory, or SDT, and it was developed by those same two researchers, Richard Ryan and Edward Deek. It offers this really powerful alternative to living a life based on chasing external rewards.
So the core idea of SDT is actually super simple, but it's also incredibly profound. It just says that all of us, no matter where we're from, have three basic innate psychological needs. And I want you to think of these not as wants or desires, but as essential nutrients for your mind, just like water and food are for your body. And here they are, the big three. First up, autonomy. This is the need to feel like you are the one driving your own life, that your choices are your own. Second, we have competence. This is the need to feel effective and capable, to feel like you're growing and you can handle challenges. And third, there's relatedness. This is that deep, fundamental need to feel connected to other people, to care about them and feel like they care about you. It's simple. When these three needs are met, we thrive. When they're not, we really, really struggle. And the research on this is it's incredible. It paints such a clear picture. When you look at the goals people chase, you see this pattern. When people go after extrinsic goals, wealth, fame, a perfect public image, their well-being actually goes down. Yeah, you heard that right. Even if they achieve them. But When people focus on intrinsic goals, things like their own personal growth, deep relationships, contributing to a community, their self-esteem and fulfillment skyrocket. And why? Well, it's because those are the goals that actually feed our three core needs.
So that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? How do we actually make this shift? How do we stop chasing all those bobbing buoys and finally start dropping our anchors?
Well, the good news is we can learn to build a stable sense of self-worth by intentionally creating what we're going to call our worth anchors.
So let's bring that metaphor back one last time. The goal here isn't to make the waves of life disappear. That's impossible. The challenges, the successes, the failures, they're all going to keep coming. The goal is to stop being tossed around by them. It's all about grounding ourselves in something deeper, something internal that holds us steady. Okay, here are 3 really practical anchors you can start building today. And notice how each one ties directly back to one of those core psychological needs. First, anchor in effort, not the outcome. This directly feeds your need for competence. So instead of judging yourself by whether you won or lost, you value the process, the learning, the person you became along the way. Second, anchor in interest, not obligation. This is all about feeding your autonomy. You start pursuing things because they are genuinely meaningful to you, not because you feel you should or because someone expects you to. And third, anchor in contribution, not applause. This one directly feeds your need for relatedness. You shift your focus to how your work actually helps or connects with other people instead of focusing on how much recognition you get for it.
And just like Ryan and Desi say in their research, that feeling of real commitment, of true authenticity, that feeling of just being comfortable in your own skin, it doesn't come from chasing praise. It shows up all by itself when we build lives that support our needs for competence, autonomy, and relatedness, when we build our lives on these anchors.
And if you take away one thing, let it be this. Building these internal anchors doesn't make life easy. The waves are still going to come. You'll still face challenges, and you will still celebrate big wins. The difference is, you won't be defined by them. They'll just be weather passing on the surface, while you remain held, steady, and secure.
So I'll just leave you with this to think about. When you're no longer spending all of your energy just trying to stay afloat on this crazy, unpredictable sea of external validation, what else becomes possible? What could you create? What risks could you take? What could you explore if you truly knew that your fundamental worth was already and always will be secure?